Johnny brings his friend Frankie into Reed's laboratory. He has always been comfortable showing off to friends and fans. Although, sometimes it gets too much that it causes trouble, not only for him but for everyone else. What we're going to see is a classic example of this characteristic. Johnny talks secretly to Herbie about making him look and sound impressive while Frankie is looking around. He doesn't see her touching the interdimensional gauntlet, which still has no label. When he looks at her, it's too late. Frankie has accidentally opened a portal to another world. She gets sucked in. Johnny threatens Herbie to not let Reed know about this mishap or else everything will be its fault, and he follows his friend into the other world. The AI takes the threat to its core and keeps quiet, which is not a good idea. As the portal closes, a small bug gets thrown from the other world into the lab. It crawls towards Reed's chair and consumes electricity from it. It grows in size afterward. It crawls away to look for other sources of energy. The other three heroes are busy doing their own business. Sue attends the tenants' meeting for the Baxter building. Since the four of them occupy the top floors, their neighbors are always worried whenever they hear loud bangs and crashes. Understandably, our heroes always have to compensate for the building and electrical fixes. Sue calls Reed to come and support her, as the tenants tend to gang up on her. Reed says he'll follow after he's done with his experimentations. As he tests them, he sees something weird on the floor. It looks like a dried insect skeleton. Abandoning Sue to the complaints of their neighbors, he goes up to his lab to test the object. But before he can get any farther, Ben calls him and notifies him about the sudden bug infestation. He first discovers the bugs inside the refrigerator. And when he tries to remove them, the bugs seem to be out of his reach while consuming more electricity. Meanwhile, in the other dimension, Frankie is panicking. She never thought she would end up getting stuck in a different world and chased by large arthropods. Thankfully, Johnny is there to save her. However, complications arise when he shoots a fireball at these bugs and they just consume them. It seems like Johnny's power is not a good match against these fire-eating bugs. In the real world, the bugs have started to infiltrate the rest of the Baxter building. They show up at the little office where the tenants are having their meeting. Lights flicker as the insects continue to consume electricity. The tenants get scared about the possibility of an alien invasion. Just as Sue does her best to calm them down, the ceiling gets punctured and a bug appears, biting the electrical cords. Then it falls on the table. Mrs. Monet is brave enough to spray it with insecticides. Sue knows it won't work, so she traps the bugs using her force field instead. Ben is still chasing after the big bug. It enters Reed's room where he usually keeps his inventions. When he arrives, he gives Ben a device to zap the bugs. But he gets horrified when he sees the insects gnawing on his inventions. He gets distracted as he tries to remove the critters from his things. Ben has to stop him and remind him of their infestation problem. Reed tells Ben that the bugs came from the negative zone. Since there's no open portal, there must be a mother bug that reproduces. Ben must find it and lead it to the portal that Reed will make. So he walks around the laboratory to look for the culprit. Eventually, he finds the mama bug inside their testing room. Ben has to activate pieces of machinery to trap the bug. On the other hand, Reed is also dealing with the insects that have entered his room. They are multiplying fast, and they are already surrounding him. When his pair of infrared glasses drops, the bugs immediately swarm at it and consume its battery. Reed makes the connection that the mother bug must have been feeding on energy sources to grow big and produce little copies of her. He tests this theory by turning on his zapping device. Instantly, the bugs come to him. When he turns it off, they crawl away. At this point, Sue appears. She is surrounded by the critters she trapped using her force field and is visibly annoyed. She demands Reed to do something about the infestation. He pleads for her to hold on to them for a little longer, as he needs to find Ben again to instruct him on what to do. When they get to the lab, Ben gets their attention through the glass. The mama bug has escaped its entrapment and is now crawling toward him. Reed's jaw literally drops on the floor when he sees this. He instructs Ben to turn on his zapping device and lead the bug into the lab. Then, he instructs Herbie to shut down the powers in the whole building except in the laboratory. The AI follows his orders in a shaking voice. Just as the power goes out, Ben enters the lab, followed by the horde of bugs smashing through the floor. Reed immediately creates a portal using the interdimensional gauntlet. Ben wrestles with the mama bug while Sue traps the little ones. She leads them into the open portal. Reed shouts to Ben that he must throw the zapping device into the portal as well so that the bugs will follow it. He does, and every critter jumps into the door back to their world. But the mother bug will not follow just yet. It jumps onto Reed's computer. He covers his gadgets, while Ben grabs the bug. With immense force, and with Sue's help, he throws it back to where it came from. At the same time, Johnny and Frankie are about to get eaten when the portal appears right in front of them. The two jump into it and back to their world. Johnny is relieved. However, Frankie regrets ever coming into the lab with him. It looks like he has a lot of explaining to do, especially with his sister. After this incident, everything goes back to as normal as it can be. Even our heroes need some time off from the duties of saving the world. Siblings Johnny and Sue attend the city event where a cruise ship docks on one of the harbors. It is being pulled by a tugboat. Everyone is enjoying the scene when all of a sudden, a giant orca-like beast comes out of the water and sinks the ship. Then, the tugboat floats out of the water. Everyone sees that a man is lifting it. The man throws the tugboat onto the wooden docks. Fortunately, none gets injured. But the spectators get apprehensive when the man flies down in front of them. He introduces himself as Prince Namor of Atlantis. He prohibits humanity from using the sea and oceans ever again. Sue and Johnny walk forward to talk to Namor. Sue points out that the bodies of water are part of the earth and everyone must share it for coexistence. The prince makes a valid point by saying mankind has defiled his home with their trash. True, but perhaps prohibiting humans from using the ocean is too much. Johnny chooses to insult Namor and bait him into fighting. Namor takes it and shows them why he is the Prince of Atlantis. He is agile and strong. He also takes advantage of the pair of wings on each of his ankles to fly. He takes down Johnny easily, which makes Sue come in between them. Namor is impressed by her control of the force field, yet he still overpowers her. Satisfied that the siblings are defeated, Namor repeats his announcement to everyone watching on the harbor. No human is allowed to enter the sea from that day on. Then, blowing his large seashell, he calls the giant orca back into the depths of the water. Sue and Johnny watch Namor dive back into the ocean. Sue is determined to talk and negotiate with the submariner. Johnny pleads with his sister not to continue with her idea, but it's too late. She wraps both of them in an invisible shield and dives after Namor. Just after this, Reed and Ben arrive at the scene. Earlier, they have been informed about the incident, but now they don't know where the two are. Reed complains about his teammates not using the communicator. To his surprise, Sue lets him know she heard his complaint. When asked about their location, she admits they might be in trouble. They meet some odd-looking creatures on their way down. Now, they are headed right into the heart of Atlantis. Reed and Ben decide to go after the siblings. On their way, they encounter the giant orca and squid. They activate their underwater suits in preparation for a fight. Reed brings out a spear and uses its laser beam to shoo away the squid. On the other hand, Ben punches the orca. He thinks he has beaten it, but he's wrong. The creature gets up as if nothing happens and tries to swallow Ben. While the two are fighting giant sea creatures, Sue and Johnny are nearing the gates of the legendary city. Once they pass through, they are brought straight to Namor, in a place that can only be described as his throne room. There, Sue introduces herself and Johnny as members of the Fantastic Four. Namor scoffs at this and remarks on the arrogant way humans have named themselves. Sue points out that he must have the same characteristics, too, since he looks more human than the other Atlanteans. She continues to negotiate with him, allow humans to use the oceans and maintain peace between the two races. But just then, Reed and Ben barge in and get ready to defend their teammates. As the fight breaks, Sue attempts to stop it. However, she has exerted too much power in creating the invisible shield. She passes out. She and Johnny would have drowned if not for Namor closing all the doors of the room, preventing water from coming in. He tells them he'll consider the negotiation, partly because he's impressed by Sue's beauty and diplomacy. He makes a verdict: the ban will still stay in place and the Fantastic Four can return to the surface. Except for Susan Storm. When they are alone, the four heroes discuss Namor's conditions. He wants Sue to become an ambassador for the Atlanteans. This means she'll stay beside Namor. Sue actually considers this offer because, in her mind, it'll prevent a future war. When she asks for Reed's approval though, she is a bit disappointed that he will just let her go. No wonder Ben calls him an idiot despite being the smartest guy in the world. When they convene again in the throne room, Reed lets Namor know that they have received his request, but they refuse to comply with it. This surprises everyone in the room and causes a full fight between the Fantastic Four and Namor. The heroes are at a disadvantage since they are under the sea. Obviously, Namor and his soldiers are much stronger than them. Despite this, they still give their all in fighting. Sue does her best to stop it, especially between Reed and Namor. But she has to make a stand if she really wants to maintain the peace she aims for. Using her powers, she creates a forceful invisible shield that squishes everyone in the vicinity. She forces Namor to listen to her. She can't stay in Atlantis, but she offers help from the Fantastic Four to stop the destruction of his kingdom. At first, Namor isn't too agreeable about it. But Sue stands her ground. In the end, Namor has to relent on her conditions and let them all go. Eventually, they all go back to the surface world. Reed asks what everyone wants to know. Does Sue really want to stay in Atlantis? And her answer is maybe. Another day, another adventure awaits our four beloved heroes. This time, they will be encountering forces from outside the Earth. A man collects clay on an empty beach. He listens to the radio as he shovels dirt onto his truck. He hears the announcement about 3 artists getting awarded by the city. He is bitter that nobody recognizes his artwork. He thinks they don't deserve the award because their works are not the definition of art. He kicks the dirt out of frustration, then he tumbles to the ground. It's a good thing that he did because he sees a glowing object that's about to hit the place. He runs as fast as he can away from the impact. He is safe, but not the clay he has collected. They all have turned purplish. He still gets some, then goes home. Later, the Fantastic Four come to the location to assess the situation. Reed Richards releases a statement about what happened. A part of the space station charged with cosmic rays has been disentangled and landed on Earth. But he assures everyone that there are no traces of radiation present in the area, making it as safe as before. The man earlier watches the news. He sculpts the purple clay to vent out his annoyance. Unconsciously, he sculpts it into an image of Reed. He pulls its neck in frustration. To his amazement, Mr. Fantastic's neck also elongates. The man tries other moves to test an idea in his mind. Indeed, Reed's body stretches and tangles uncontrollably. And it looks like it's caused by the clay the man sculpted. He grins as a sinister idea comes to his mind. Meanwhile, Reed's reputation is in shambles after that humiliating incident gets broadcasted nationwide. The 4 of them get back to the laboratory. Immediately they run tests on Reed to see if he has been affected by any radiation or cosmic rays. They found all his stats normal. Then, without saying goodbye to them, Ben leaves the place. It turns out, he has gone to artist studios or exhibits. His goal is not yet clear, but it looks like he's abducting them. If not for Alicia Masters alerting Reed, Sue, and Johnny about their colleagues' unexplainable actions, they would not have known. Alicia also helps them identify the victims. They are the artists recently awarded by the city. Ben has already abducted 2. They need to find the 3rd artist to keep him safe. When they get to the artist's apartment, Ben is already there. They try to rescue the person but it's too late. He throws Reed away, so Johnny has to fly after him. Sue doesn't dare to fight her colleague. But she notices his eyes are not what they seem to be. She remembers Reed's warning, that perhaps someone is trying to control them. Ben takes advantage of Sue's hesitation. He throws a vehicle onto a building so hard that it almost collapses. Meanwhile, Alicia is at home trying to contact her stepfather. She is worried something might happen to him. Right after the call, Ben appears on her doorstep. He kidnaps her and brings her to her stepfather's house. There, she finds out about his involvement in the recent abductions. Somehow, Mr. Masters, the same man we saw earlier, has taken control of Ben and used him to kidnap the artists. He is even proud to say that he has not only created art that imitates life, but something that controls it. He plans to use the artists to show the world what he believes is the true meaning of art. But Alicia will not stand for this. She calls Reed, Sue, and Johnny to deal with the situation. However, Mr. Masters is already one step ahead of them. He reveals the life-size statue of Johnny. Johnny, being his narcissistic self, likes the sculpture. But Sue thinks this is a bad idea. And indeed, it is. Mr. Masters suddenly gains control of Johnny's mind. With the Thing and the Human Torch under his command, he orders them to destroy their teammates. Reed and Sue have no choice but to defend themselves from the attacks. Sue uses her powers to block Ben's punches, while Reed prevents Johnny from using his fire. In a typical supervillain manner, Mr. Masters monologues about his evil plans once the Fantastic Four is destroyed. He knows he's always meant to rule. Now, he can do whatever he wants as long as he has the clay to control Ben and Johnny. Reed hears his monologue, so he tells Sue to destroy the clays. But she is too busy blocking Ben's giant fists. Fortunately, Alicia is near the statue. Although she loves and respects her stepfather, she knows that what he's doing is not right. She gropes for a hammer. And when she finds it, she destroys Ben's miniature statue. With Johnny the only one left under his control, Mr. Masters orders him to destroy them. Ben, now back in his right mind, grabs Johnny's arm just in time. He forces him to throw a fireball right at his life-size statue. It catches fire and soon melts back into a lump of clay. Johnny is free from mind control. Ben reprimands Mr. Masters for making him hurt his friends. Alicia stops him, saying that despite all that has happened, he is still her father. She wants the justice system to teach him a lesson. Meanwhile, the 3 artists are freed from their bonds. They can't believe that the one who kidnapped them is the one who saves them. Mr. Masters is put behind bars. But for him, his reign is just about to start as he brings out a clump of cosmic-infused clay from his pocket. Then he starts sculpting it into a police officer. Their troubles from outer space are far from over. One time, Reed, Johnny, and Ben are checking some information sent back by their space probe. They use a simulation that creates holographic imagery to see the things that the probe has captured images of. Then, the probe sends a signal that it needs repairing. Reed wonders about this, while Johnny plays with a device that changes Ben's appearance with the help of light. Warning Johnny about Ben's revenge on him, Reed grabs back the device and calls for a meeting. He wants everyone present when he inspects the space probe. To their surprise, two space probes return to their base. One has their logo, while the other has green and purple colors. As they ponder about this, the second probe suddenly transforms into a little humanoid figure. It has a pointed head and ears, high eyebrows, and a big smile. Its skin is green and its clothes are purple. It jumps around like a child, surprising all four heroes. It talks like a child, too. From its words, they have learned that it got its English-speaking skills from the probe. When Reed asks for its name, however, it doesn't give any since it doesn't know what a name is. But it shows them what it can do, transform into anything and everything. It transforms into a space probe and even into a copy of the Fantastic Car. It looks so happy and fascinating even by simple things. Reed doesn't know what to make of it. All his knowledge about physics and the world is getting challenged by the weird creature. He can only think that what it can do is impossible. He can't believe any living creature can change into a different thing just by using strong will. Its overly enthusiastic nature is getting on their nerves. Reed decides to scan the alien, but somehow it can turn into light as well. Herbie the AI does its best to scan it. Yet the creature has transformed, integrating itself into the system. It asks so many questions that Herbie simply breaks down. Ben calls it the Green Man and grabs it. He wants to throw it out of the building out of frustration. Reed calms him down and says they must contain it inside as long as possible. He believes this Green Man is probably the most dangerous foe they have encountered. Ben and Sue laugh at this. This creature may be annoying and obnoxious like Johnny, but how can it be dangerous? Reed explains that since it can transform into anything, it may use its abilities without thinking about the consequences. They must keep it happy and busy and never let it out into the city. Or else, disaster will happen. So the other three take the little green man into their home while Reed figures out how to deal with it. He checks again the coordinates of the last location where the space probe has been. It shows on the monitor a planet with a swirl of green and purple colors. When he zooms in, he is horrified to see that there are hundreds and thousands of aliens very much similar to the one they have now. And they all share the same characteristics, annoying and overly curious. These same characteristics are pissing Ben off so much. The alien copy his appearance and clobbers him. It looks like it can copy abilities as well. With one giant fist, it punches Ben out of the window and into the city. Now their problem gets worse. The Green Man is so fascinated by the many sights and variations of people in the city. It transforms easily into anything that catches its attention. Now that there is more to see outside, it doesn't want to go back to the laboratory anymore. The Fantastic Four give chase to the alien, but the latter thinks it's fun to get chased. It makes the entire city into a playground, changing from one form into another to avoid getting captured. At one point, it notices that other humans don't transform at all. When he asks Reed about this, he explains that normal humans don't have this ability. The Green Man says that back on its planet, everyone has learned to transform to adapt to dangerous surroundings. Ben and Johnny try again to capture the alien but to no avail. Reed warns them to not be impatient since it considers everything they do like a game. Then, it turns into a giant satellite dish. It enjoys Earth so much that it sends a signal to its fellow creatures to come and explore the planet. And there's nothing they can do to stop it. Reed has to act fast. He tells the others to keep it busy while he does something in his lab. Not even a long time has passed when the alien turns into a green and purple Godzilla rampaging around the city. Then it climbs up the Baxter building and comes up behind Reed. The alien thinks it has won, but Reed contradicts it. He says he has taken its ability to transform. Indeed, when it tries to change, nothing happens. In truth, Reed simply uploaded the data about the Green Man into the simulation system to make it think that way. So far, it works well. The Green Man is so distraught thinking it has lost its ability. They almost have it, if not for Johnny accidentally sitting on the device and changing Ben into a gorilla. The Green Man finds out the trick. It turns into a giant and flaunts its victory. To its surprise, Reed agrees. He signals the others to follow his lead. Finally, the heroes understand that the only way to deal with an annoying, obnoxious creature who always wants the spotlight is to not give it what it wants, attention. No matter what the alien does to them, they just ignore it. In the end, it figures humans are boring. It decides to hate the place. Conjuring up a big spacecraft, the alien sends a signal to its fellow creatures not to come to Earth. Eventually, it leaves. From time to time, it asks Reed if it can come back. But his answer is always no.
Reed Richards is experimenting with cosmic rays on a bunch of broccoli. Watching him are his team members Sue, Ben, and Johnny. They all want to know why Reed has to do such an odd experiment. He explains that the cosmic rays he's using are artificial. But they have characteristics that are closer to the ones that gave them their abilities in the first place. It's a bit unstable, but if Reed can harness it, he can make a cure to return Ben to his human form without removing his powers. However, the experiment fails. The broccoli explodes and the power source overloads. Herbie shuts it down, but not before the light explodes. Everyone gets hit and falls unconscious. When they wake up, they get an unpleasant realization. Sue wakes up and sees her brother changing back and forth between solid and translucent. Because of shock, she sets herself on fire. Reed calms them down. However, he has become orange and rocky. And the most surprising of all is that Ben has finally turned back into a human. Or, at least, a human that can stretch body parts. It seems like the light explosion caused all of them to switch powers. Sue and Johnny exchange powers, while Reed and Ben swap theirs. What happens next is pure confusion. Because they are not used to their powers, they almost destroy the laboratory. Sue cannot control her fire even if she calms down. She also floats suddenly and sets fire to one of the machines. Johnny is also upset because he doesn't want his sister's powers. He accidentally makes the lab go invisible, making them look like they are floating in the air. Meanwhile, Ben is simply happy to be able to feel things again. Their attention is caught by a giant black ball of energy floating just outside their laboratory. Then it simply vanishes. Reed traces the energy using a gadget, but he squishes it too hard with his hard and pudgy fingers. He tells them that he'll trace first this ball of energy, as it may have something to do with what happened to them. For now, they can try and get used to their new powers. Later on, Reed informs the team that he has detected another massive energy signature within the city. So they all go to deal with it. On the other hand, in the faraway kingdom of Latveria, Doom just gets out of a glowing chamber. The colors inside are the same as the cosmic energy ball that appeared in front of the Fantastic Four. His assistant, Lucia von Bardas, informs him that his enemies have left the Baxter building. It looks like Doom is planning another sinister event. And this time, he may be closer to his goals than before. Back in New York City, the citizens are scared away by the energy ball in the middle of the city. It's been randomly shooting and striking people, making it more dangerous. The Fantastic Four arrives. When working together, they have a specific routine that they follow. Usually, Sue and Ben help people get away from danger, while Johnny and Reed will contain the cause of danger. However, they have forgotten that they have switched powers this time. Johnny jumps out of the vehicle, expecting to burst into flames and fly. Instead, he falls fast to the ground. He is only able to activate the force field when he's inches above the cement. Sue gets out of the car, but she immediately sets herself on fire and flies. Meanwhile, Reed keeps destroying his compartment with his rocky hands. And Ben, he just simply slithers on the ground. There's also another thing they noticed. Their personalities seem to have been swapped as well. Sue becomes tactless and Johnny reprimands her. Reed tends to forget his ideas due to hunger, while Ben is the one explaining the concepts. Despite feeling the challenge of thinking hard, Reed says he has to find a way to remove the energy ball. He instructs Sue to overcharge it with her flames. She does, but she immediately falls to the ground. It explodes, but without causing more damage. Thankfully, Reed can get an accurate reading using the device in his hand. According to Herbie, the energy ball is made by cosmic rays and has the same signature as a portal created by the interdimensional gauntlet. Just then, Herbie records another energy disturbance. This one is more significant since it's located right outside the Castle of Doom in his kingdom. Ben expresses his suspicions that it's Doom all along. He thinks he's the one causing these massive clumps of energy. Whatever he plans on doing now must be stopped. Everyone agrees with Ben. They all fly in the Fantasticar. Their destination, Doom's castle in Latveria. Speaking of Doom, he knows that Reed and his members are about to come to his place. He is curious that everyone seems to be out of sorts. But he's more interested in the fact that Reed hasn't caught up in his plans. Whatever this is, we will surely find out later on. For now, he orders his assistant to destroy the Fantastic Four. Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben arrive at a port just outside Doom's castle. They can see the energy ball, which is bigger than the previous ones. From behind them, the Doombots attack. To their surprise, the robots have specific abilities to counter their skills. One robot attacks Sue, with the installed program of shooting lasers against her force field. Another robot comes to Johnny, getting ready to shoot water. Another one approaches Ben, getting ready to absorb his punches and use them to punch him back. But they are underestimating our heroes. In the short time since they exchanged powers, they have already gotten used to them. In no time, they destroy the robots. When they get back together, Reed instructs Johnny to create a tunnel of force field right into the heart of the energy ball. He plans to absorb a part of it to destabilize it. The only catch is that they need to do it inside. Johnny does his best to create the tunnel, despite being strained. Reed grabs the absorbing device. Together with Sue and Johnny, they all walk toward the energy ball. However, they don't see the last Doombot following them. It almost terminates them all. Fortunately, Ben follows it just in time. Using his stretchy powers, he destroys the robot. Eventually, Reed absorbs enough energy to destabilize it. It explodes just like earlier. But this time, they have gotten back their original powers. At the same time as the explosion, Doom is also affected by it. He comes out of the chamber, weakened and groggy. But something in his eyes seems to indicate that he may have been successful in what he is doing. But what is his plan? Why is he trying to manipulate cosmic rays? It turns out, he thinks it's the only way to destroy the Fantastic Four. A few days later, the big clumps of energy are back again, threatening the peace of the city. As usual, our heroes come to the rescue. What they don't know is that this is a trick set up by Doom to terminate them. As the Fantastic Four try to contain its striking force, the energy ball suddenly warps. Then it absorbs them all, including their Fantasticar. The next thing they know, they are on a floating giant rock, with lots of debris flying nearby. There's a lot of reddish lights surrounding them. The sky looks closer than before, like they are literally looking at cosmic space. Reed is impressed they can even breathe here. He also adds that the place is fascinating. He has always wanted to come here ever since he discovered it. To others' horror, he confirms that they are in the negative zone. Remember the bugs from the earlier episode? This is their place of origin. As they look around, they notice that their powers seem to get stronger. Ben grows extra layers of rock around his body. Sue completely goes invisible, but she can't control it. Johnny's fire burns brighter than before. And, Reed looks like a melting human. They immediately run back to their vehicle to escape. But a swarm of giant insects attacks them. This situation, worsened by their uncontrollable powers, makes it hard for them to escape or even make a plan. In the end, they all get captured. They are brought to the Red Planet. The leader, named Annihilator, accuses them of attempting to steal his power source and conquering his universe. And who has informed him of this so-called devious plan by the Fantastic Four? It's none other than Doom. It turns out, Doom has been wanting to steal the power source from the negative zone. When Reed and others have switched powers, he has been trying to open a portal into the other world using a copy of the interdimensional gauntlet. He uses the heroes as a distraction to execute his plan. While he is entertaining Annihilator with the evil deeds of the humans, his Doombots have gone to the secured room where the power source is kept safe. It's shaped like a capsule, but the Annihilator calls it the control rod. They exterminate the guards and then steal it. The leader, not knowing what his ally has done, thanks Doom for helping him capture the human conquerors. Then, Doom leaves, completing his plan. Reed once again tries to explain that they are not the bad guys. It's noticeable that he has become more normal looking. Sue and Johnny have become normal, too. Reed thinks that Doom is not capable of asking for help to get any power he wants. Then he finally figures out the overall picture of Doom's betrayal. He explains this to his teammates. He is also horrified to know what Doom can do with the control rod. He theorizes that the rod must have been the cause for their sudden excessive powers earlier. If it is brought to Earth, then there's a great possibility that the planet will also absorb too much energy. When this happens, the Earth will explode and turn into a black hole. Reed tries to communicate with Herbie through his comms. But it's too late. Doom has already activated the rod. The roads start to crystallize, just like in an earlier episode when a portal was accidentally opened above the city. The four heroes get back to Earth using their own interdimensional gauntlet. But as soon as they come in close contact with the control rod, their powers start to get out of control again. They must remove the rod from Doom's hand before it's too late. They do their best to subdue Doom. However, he has a strong defense that doesn't allow them to get close to him. They can only protect the citizens from flying objects. To Doom's surprise, Annihilator swoops in toward him and attempts to grab the rod. The two tackle against each other, flying upwards towards the sky. Reed helps, but he gets zapped by a bolt of random lightning. Amid their tussle, Annihilator swats the gauntlet away from Doom's hand. This copy of the interdimensional gauntlet allows Doom to control the rod. But now that it's out of his hands, the rod's power becomes more turbulent. They keep on flying higher and higher, with all the wild energy zapping and striking around them. To everyone's horror, everything starts to get sucked into the portal in the sky. Reed has to act fast. He grabs Doom's gauntlet. Combining it with his own, he pushes out more power to force the portal open. He tells Doom one last time to stop chasing after the rod and let it go back into the negative zone. But our stubborn villain will not listen to his enemy. In the end, he gets sucked into the portal, along with Annihilator and the rod. The portal closes. All that's left is destruction and Doom's mask.